We've all seen the videos that's been coming out of popular games in recent times of a group of friends playing a game together where it seems everything is out to get them.
We come in peace, we come in peace, we come...
While they're looking for random items on some godforsaken map. Maybe even the term attached to a lot of them, FriendSlop, or the fights in comment sections on if we should or shouldn't use the term to describe certain games, but hear me out. So FriendSlop is still pretty new, but they all follow similar patterns. So they tend to be coming from indie studios who are working with lower budgets, and the games themselves tend to be pretty cheap. Now they do that for a reason because these games are friend focused and they make it so everybody could be able to buy them. And along that, they are all pretty much horror games, but they also have simple and repetitive gameplay loops. Okay. Oh my god, you got the beehive? You got the beehive? Yes, there's controversy behind the slop part of the term. I definitely see where people are coming from. Right now, making video games is incredibly expensive, so just calling all online co-op focused games FriendSlop could be misleading. Repo, Lethal Company, Peak, and The Boss of All are all examples of how it can be done right. Plenty of videos have broken down what it is already, so I'll let you guys watch those if you really want to break down on FriendSlop itself. Arguably, people can say that this started with Among Us. Playing with a bunch of buddies on Discord for a few rounds with no real progression for like $5 to buy the game, and if you played the VR version, you could possibly have some horror elements in there. Right after followed Lethal Company. This is called the starting point to FriendSlop games, but don't let it deter you from the game itself, because it is a pretty well made game. In the game, you're put in a dangerous environment, alone or with a squad, and throughout the course of multiple days, you go out into these dungeon-like facilities, and you're picking up scrap to meet your quota, and avoiding all the hazards to start the next day. What made this game stand out was the proximity chat that gamers are known to love.
I got it. I got the key.
But also the wacky creatures that would hunt you down where you accomplish these tasks.
Michael!
Now, after Lethal Company, there was a handful of games that copied the same play model, some with just slight changes, others were more creative with their approach, but all kinda had the same fate. Like Content Warning by Landfall Studios, which is the exact same playstyle, but more on the nose with the approach, where you have a camera and you go into these dangerous areas.
This is a really scary, dangerous situation. Holy sh...
And hope to catch one of these aggressive creatures on film, maybe eating a friend, so, clip farming. There was a big influx of players at the beginning of these games' life cycles due to the hype from social medias and streamers, but as soon as the next game came out, attention shifted and player numbers dwindled. Now, for indie games, these aren't awful numbers for the ones that succeeded at least, like Lethal Company, Repo, and Peak. Peak especially since two known studios came together to make the game. Aggro Crab, who had made Another Crab's Treasure, that crab soul-like game that was popular a while ago,
Royal Shell Splitter.
and Landfall, who have a whole catalog of recognized games from Tabs, Stick Fight, Cluster Truck, Haste, so they were bound to cook up something good. Peak is a game where up to 4 of your friends would survive a plane crash, and you guys have to gather whatever gear you guys can get and climb through 5 different terrains trying to survive and reach the peak to escape. So after many hours, I can say Peak is very well made and it's fun and it's fresh, and I feel like they've kind of cracked the code when it came to like what makes FriendSlop in terms of like well made, high quality, like that fine dining FriendSlop. So I kind of question if these games were failing due to them being indie studios and the attention being hard to maintain with constant updates, because resources or something. But the more I looked, I saw the FriendSlop game that had all the resources, had all the bullet points, but had some other things that I think made it slop. Arrowhead's Helldivers 2, made with a small studio, hit the ground running fast. Now, this game broke records with its release. It was such a big release that they had to apologize and explain that there was simply too many people wanting to play at once for their service to handle. After about a week, the servers were up and running and the gaming community, minus Xbox players, was able to get their boots on the ground with a group of friends and fight huge space bugs or deadly automaton armies ravaging planets, using a variety of weapons, throwables, or a series staple stratagems that you can call down using a little cheat code and summon a nuke from your pocket if you wanted to. You could defend Super Earth from all sides with real-time community progression, and this at the time was a pretty different gaming model from what we've mainly seen before with live service games, but this felt fresh while simultaneously scratching this itch so many people had for a while. Dying in combat while being outnumbered.
We stand here. We die here. It has been an honor.
Now, men love this stuff. I mean, I can safely say any man has fantasized at least once about a last stand or an honorable sacrifice for your team. Helldivers hit their mark, and the different difficulties made it more challenging for players really looking for a fight. So, what makes it slop, you may ask? Well, after the game had time to make its mark with players and the updates began rolling in, adding more content to an already decent sized game, which was good in and of itself, but either way, we saw a common element coming alongside it, which we only really saw with other games that were free to play. Microtransactions. Keep in mind, the launch of this game was so big that they pulled in millions and millions in revenue and it's still growing. After you pay $30 to $40 to buy the game itself, you then pay $10 to $20 to actually play the game on console because you have to get PlayStation Plus or Game Pass, and then you have to spend over $130 to get everything else in the game, all the war bonds, not just cosmetics or cool capes, but stronger weapons and gear and equipment, and each game lasts 10 minutes to an hour, so grinding the super credits while possible isn't viable for people who do literally anything else. These weapons and stratagems are basically pay to survive when you look at what some of them do and the absolute scale of the higher difficulty battles. All of this on top of a pretty hard story to follow, albeit a pretty interesting story, and the player nerfs, it led to some players losing interest. Now, this is not to say that Helldivers isn't a good game. It's fun and enjoyable and it still has a good amount of active players. But it's also from an indie studio and it's $40, where right now the industry standard is like $70 to $80, but even then it was still $60. And you can play alone or with randoms, but having a friend group heavily amplifies the game. It's a simple and repetitive gameplay loop, live service, which you have to pay to play on console, and then heavy microtransactions, that in-game content beyond cosmetics. It has all the points of FriendSlop, but the heavy microtransactions and how they implemented it on top of it being live service is what I think makes it deserving of the label.
Join the Helldivers.
So when we're looking at the question as to why some games succeed and other ones fail, we have to understand that these games just aren't new. These co-op games have been around for a while with party games and PvP, survival, etc. So why is it that Human Fall Flat has 7k current players after almost a decade, but Chained Together only has 3k today with just over a year? Both are co-op puzzle games and both have their strengths, but I understand it's not the greatest comparison, so I'll break it down a little further. Dividing everything into two categories, player versus player, online players versus other online players. Usually in a team-based format, like a lot of players are competitive and tend to play this type of game the most. So in the gaming market, PvP is always a prominent category or element of gaming. Call of Duty, Marvel Rivals, or Counter-Strike being the biggest example. Now PvE is player versus environment. This would be games like Peak, Human Fall Flat, Ark, Little Big Planet, or Helldivers even. It's players going against elements of a game like puzzles, levels, survival aspects like hunger, thirst, or in-game enemies and RNG. It's pretty much the players going against the game itself instead of only online players. Most games tend to fall under PvE, but the ones with long-lasting success tend to have some form of PvP elements, adding a sense of competition and progression towards an in-game goal like rankings or battle passes. It leaves players coming back trying to see how high they can rank or level up in their community. Competition is one of the strongest driving forces as humans, so it makes sense that in terms of games, it's what sells the most, and all of these games hold similarities to a lot of the older games that came before them. The recent FriendSlop trend feels a lot like a copy and paste of what was before, which is why a lot of people are inclined to call it slop. Put Repo, Lethal Company, Peak, and Helldivers 2 in that successful category. The ones who copied kind of failed in comparison, like Content Warning and Chained Together, and Chained Together they copied Roblox, so there's that. When games put these PvE and PvP elements together and take inspiration rather than copy, that's where majority of these major titles are. Minecraft is one of the biggest games to ever release, and it's a simple survival sandbox game where everything is a cube, and that inspired so many survival builders after the fact, and even a shooter game. Eventually they added a battle royale, and arguably were the first people to ever add a battle royale, but that's another time. But that inspired PUBG. And PUBG is pretty much, just like 100 people, they go down and they get a bunch of loot and they just blast at each other until somebody comes out alive, and then they winner chicken dinner. Y'all seen it before. Fortnite took the gaming model and they said, bet, we're going to one-up it and we're going to make it a little bit more childlike to appeal to a wider demographic. And that worked more than they could have expected. So Fortnite, being relatively small at the time, blew up. And Fortnite's success started a battle royale eclipse where everything had to have battle royale in it to be successful, and COD still does this with Warzone. Call of Duty was mainly inspired by Counter-Strike and Halo. Marvel Rivals was clearly inspired by Overwatch and Valorant. Valorant clearly took inspiration from Counter-Strike and Overwatch, and that ended up inspiring Fragpunk. So what I'm getting at is these games with some decent success, they weren't insanely new ideas, but they took ideas people already loved and either expanded it or made it its own thing. Not all got Fortnite levels of success, but they succeeded at what they could do, not what the current trend is. Now, trend chasers are always going to be a thing, but sometimes they could come up with some really good games. Peak being a good example of this. Peak, I think, is almost perfection, I think, personally. But those games that are really successful are the ones where developers really put serious effort into their craft and build off of their inspiration with their own creativity. These recent games are almost clear copies of something before, the same approach Call of Duty has been doing for over a decade. Taking something and making it feel fresh with your own ideas, or completely transforming it into something almost new, is real artistry. And it's something gamers can feel and they enjoy and appreciate. That unpredictability is what keeps players coming back to games, while at the same time, it is nice to have something quick to play with the group, maybe not focused on a big goal, but just enjoying playing with friends and laughing at funny moments. Now, FriendSlop games aren't bad games, they are good for what they want to do. It's like fast food, it's cheap, convenient, quick, and it's good enough to share with people. Those well-crafted games have a lot of depth and content or replay value, and that's what the gaming community has really been yearning for recently. And a lot of people in the community has also been enjoying the games where the focus is their friends.
Grab him! Oh, man.
So there isn't anything wrong with any of these games other than heavy unneeded microtransactions in some games. They all took the effort of developers in an expensive climate doing a tedious job to create even the simplest games. It should just be seen that copying ideas won't work for long-term success. Creating your own using your inspiration is where artistry lies, and what grabs the gaming community's attention, they will gravitate towards something new and innovative every time. So if you have an idea, go out and work on it, expand it, and use your creativity to create your own peak.